Once again, I am sitting far away from you and will not smile today because I still have not fixed my front teeth. Man, it's going to cost me a few $1,000s to fix it, and it had to break just after I quit my job, so I got no more dental insurance. Just great. Anyways, before we begin, please be careful because there are scammers out there pretending to be YouTubers, asking for money. For example, they will ask you to pay for shipping because you want something. Guys, Thomson Stereo only gives out $1 million systems, okay? Behind the scene, I spoke to other YouTubers, and yeah, we are all trying to bring awareness to this problem. For those of you who have ordered the Galleon TS120, do not respond to any emails asking for money. And if you have not received an email from me, yes, please send me an email. Finally, I've uploaded a new video on the Galleon channel. Please go check it out. Arendal reached out to me a while ago asking if I would be interested in reviewing their stand mount 1723S speaker. I said yes because it looked a lot like a Bukhara S400 speaker. You have a big waveguide like the S400, a seal design like the S400, and a 6-inch driver once again like the S400. Now, I'm not going to compare the S400 with the Arendal in this video because that's not the point of this video. But at the same time, I am not going to leave you hanging after mentioning I have both in my house. I will say this. The biggest difference I notice is the Arendal 1723S has a sharper top end. It sparkles more, while the Bukhara has a bigger and fuller bass. Both have that wall of diffuse sound characteristic. The 1723S has a more neutral presentation to my ears, and that's pretty much a high-level comparison between both. Now, just before Arendal shipped their speaker to me, they asked me if they can send me a subwoofer with it. Now, I can understand why they were concerned because the Arendal 1723S is a seal design, and usually seal design speakers don't have that extra oomph in the bass. I personally was not concerned about the bass because as an audiophile, I don't really need boomy chest-pounding bass. I'm more interested in nuance and control bass, which I was expecting from the 1723S speakers. Still, I understand the concern, so I said, sure, send me your subwoofer. Now, what I did not expect is they send me a gigantic 25 kilogram subwoofer. I was like, what? When I was helping the UPS guy unloading from the truck, yeah, he was not able to do it himself. As I was cursing and unloading it from the truck, I was asking myself, is there absolutely no bass whatsoever with those speakers that they need to send me this behemoth subwoofer that weighs like a mini fridge? Do you know how much space that took up in my house? Let me show you how my storage room is right now. Mental note to myself, next time ask for the size before accepting. So, my audio buddies, today we are going to talk about the Arendal 1723 stand mount speaker and its matching subwoofer. Now, and I find it cute that they wrote conceived in Norway, born in China, raised by you at the back of the speaker. I wonder why did they name it 1723S? Anyways, the 1723S is a two-way stand mount THX certified speaker with a 1-inch soft dome tweeter housed in a waveguide, and it has a 6.5-inch woofer. This is a 4-ohm speaker with a sensitivity of 84 dB. The frequency response is 65 Hz to 20 kHz, but at -6 dB. If you want to see the measurements, go check the website. The speaker costs $1,500 and it comes with a 60-day trial period with a 10-year warranty. Well, that's pretty good. For the 1723 2S subwoofer, it is priced at $2,400 USD. I like the finishing and it is a perfect match with the speakers. It has two, let me repeat, two 13.8-inch driver. Oh my god. And it comes with magnetic grille. It is also a seal design and has 1,200 watt of power. When I saw the specs, I cannot help but think about that scene from the movie Back to the Future with the big subwoofer. Depending on the EQ setting you choose, the subwoofer can go from 200 Hz down to 17 Hz. Now, although the subwoofer is not small, I like the fact that it is a slim design. So, how does the speaker sound? It is quite a lively sound. The top end is detailed and sharp. For me, I like bright speakers like Focal, so the brightness is fine for me. But I can see for some people, they might find it slightly on the bright side. The mid-range and the bass are quite linear. Lots of clarity, I would say this. It's a neutral sounding speaker, and some people might find it slightly on the lean side. Because this is a seal design, you don't have that fat, bloated bass feel, but rather you get this really tight, fast, nuanced, and clean bass. The soundstage is quite deep. If I sit 7 feet away from the speakers, I can feel the singer is about 10 feet away. Also, perhaps it has a waveguide. I get that wall of sound feel, spacious and layered. The layering is pretty good with these speakers. So, although not pinpoint precise like some of the speakers I have, in the sense I can cut out the musicians, I find it good enough. Instrument separation is good, as well as the center image. So, let's start with the negatives. The speakers are not easy to drive. 84 dB sensitivity. I tried 7 amps from budget to high end. The lowest power amp I tried was with the topping D90 SE as a DAC and preamp, combined with the new 100 watt into 4 ohm topping, I think it's called LA90 power amp. I was at max volume with the D90 SE, max volume with the amplifier, and I was only able to reach 75 dB when measured 7 feet away from the speakers. Mind you, there was no distortion from the topping amp, even at max volume, and it sounded very pleasant. With this setup, the speakers did not sound sharp at all, no hint of sibilance, and if you only listen at 75 dB, the smoothness of this topping LA90 is actually a good match with these speakers. With the IOTAVX SA3 Amp, you better have that extra PA3 power amp. I had to raise the bass a bit with the tone control because it sounded a bit lean with this combo. It sounded good once I used tone control. Best budget match. D90 SE with the LSA Warp 1 Class D power amp. The bass was strong and the Warp 1 was effortless driving these speakers. This combo sounded refined and controlled. For me, this was one of my favorite pairing. In short, you need power with these speakers and your amp needs to be able to handle a 4 ohm load. The next thing you have to be aware of is, for some people, it can sound a bit lean, especially if your amp does not have enough power to bring out that full bass potential of these speakers. If your amp can, yeah, then it's fantastic. Now, let's move on to the positives. If you're looking for a speaker that is great for both movie and music, put this on your short list. I was watching a Star Trek Strange New Worlds the other day, and usually when I watch TV, my brain switches off from my critical listening and just focus on the show. Now, what took me by surprise is during one scene where the crew was on this pirate ship. I was suddenly shocked by how well the speakers were able to render the space of the pirate's ship's room. Now, I have a dedicated home theater myself, so I'm familiar with creating that 3D sound, but to be able to do it with 2 speakers to create that 3D space for a TV show, I was impressed. Then I started paying attention to the sounds from the show, and the clarity and precision were really good. So I think the ability of these speakers to image and separate things well also really benefit movies. Why is this a wow for me? It's because it caught my attention without me listening for it. It meant that it did it so well that I cannot but help notice, right? Now, I wish they have sent me that center channel too, so I could have hooked it up to my home theater receiver and see how it performs in a home theater environment. You know, maybe in the future. Next, if you never listen to speakers with no port, you should put it on your bucket list. The nuance, control, speed, and clarity you get from a seal design are excellent. Not many speakers on the market today are sealed design. And one of the possible reasons, I think, is in today's world, we tend to chase after strong bass output as opposed to nuanced bass. However, if you get a chance to hear the 1723S, I am sure you will appreciate how articulate and textured it is. Out of all my audio buddies, only Loic got to try the 1723S, and his experience was similar to mine except for one. For him, the top end was not sharp. Very pleasant for all style music. That is the only part where we disagree because, as you recall, I said the top end is a bit on the sharper side and the measurement shows it. In his case, he drove it with a 300 watt Class AB amp, and he told me with that kind of power, the 1723S had enough bass to give the Bukhara S400 a run for their money. The problem with hard-to-drive speaker is you need power to bring out the full bass, and in his case with 300 watts, he was able to. So once you have good strong bass, it will balance out with the top end. So yeah, okay, I can understand why he found it not as bright as I did. What we agreed on is the detailed image projected in the air was good. Oh, he told me, by the way, to get rid of the speaker jumpers, and I replaced it with my DIY Carter speaker jumpers, and wow, it made a difference. Now, talking about bass, regarding the subwoofer, surprisingly, for a 13.8-inch woofer, it is not slow and pretty fast. Also, just like the speaker, the bass was very articulate, nuanced, deep, and effortless. Above all, you don't hear the subwoofer. And yes, I guess that is the benefit of being a sealed design. You cannot tell the bass is coming from the subwoofer, but rather it comes from like the background. This is a very musical subwoofer, and maybe because of its size, it is impactful when needed. So a very good balance between movies and music. But that is not totally right, because if I said that, you might think it is a compromise between movies and music. But I would say if you got this sub just for music, you might be quite pleasantly surprised how well it integrates with your speakers, especially if your speakers are sealed like the 1723. Oh, that's another benefit of sealed design speakers. I find they integrate way easier with subwoofers. Now, remember I said the speakers are more on the neutral side. With the subwoofer, it adds a bit of warmth to the presentation. There's a greater sense of scale and a deeper soundstage. The presentation feels more effortless, and you know, people may not realize how incredible adding a subwoofer to a system can be. It's not just adding bass, but it affects your soundstage. Even mid-range has a bit more information. It really can level up your system a few notches. I would go as far as to say, for some people, the solution to your sound system problem is actually a subwoofer. Now, I remember one day I was listening to the Arendal with the sub, and at one point I looked at the Apertura Edena speakers behind it. And you see, the night before I was listening to the Apertura of the Cayenne 170 Soul, and that combo was 20 grand, right? And I told myself at that moment, you know what? I'm enjoying these Arendal just as much as I did with the Apertura. Sure, if you ask me to break down the differences and tell you how the $20,000 setup is better, I can. But I cannot deny the fact I was enjoying the Arendal system just as much. And that caused me to pause and smile. Now, having said that, that is only true when I had the subwoofer on. Without a sub, as long as you have enough power, like a Warp engine, well, or at least an LSA Warp 1 amp, which I've reviewed, you will have plenty of strong bass. So, let's end the video at this point. Don't forget to go check out my latest video from Galion, that other channel I have, and I'll link that in the first description. Now, please leave a comment on what you think about speakers with waveguide. Have you heard one, or is it something you would like to try? What about sealed speakers? Do you prefer that? Now, with millions of speakers available on the market, why get the Arendal 1723S? At 1,005 USD, you have tons of choices. This is a question I ask myself every time I have something in for review. What do these speakers offer that is, quote-unquote, unique? After all, it has a waveguide, and most speakers on the markets do not. Now, My personal experience is this. I noticed that it has a diffuse kind of wall of sound. I love that spacious cube, and keep in mind I have a fully treated room. Remember that story, the Star Trek story I told you? I think it is the nature of this waveguide that gave me that illusion. And perhaps a waveguide is what you have been searching for all this time. Next, with the waveguide, my experience is there's a certain projection that is quite energetic. It brings a bit of excitement to the music. Now, some of us find excitement in an elevated treble, but no, not all of us like that because it can be a bit fatiguing. Who knows? You might find excitement with how a waveguide projects sound. Perhaps that is why I describe the sound as a bit on the livelier side. Great for movies and excellent for music. Finally, I find the sweet spot a bit bigger. So I think for these few reasons, if you never experienced a speaker with a waveguide and seal design, you should give it a try. The Arendal 1723 is not just a home theater speaker. It is an audiophile level speaker that is worthy of your attention. With that said, see you next time.